Hi, I'm Jackie.
I'm Laura.
And we are two consecrated women that are in love with Jesus Christ.
If you would like to know more about this adventure of love and a little bit about the journey of discernment, join us each episode on the Till It's You podcast.
We are going to be breaking open scripture and just giving you a little glimpse into consecrated life in a way that hopefully brings Jesus to the forefront of the word and adventure of discernment. This is going to be such a good episode. I can feel it.
It's going to be awesome.
Okay, we thought this was really funny because the gospel passage we already know that we're going to pick today is on the rich young man, but we're thinking it's February and probably the majority of our listeners, I imagine you are probably in the market for a rich young man. I don't think I can say that. But we're going to start over right here and Alona can just cut that out. Alona, cut. And we're going to start, right? All right. This is going to be actually a pretty good podcast.
It's going to be
I can tell. I'm very comfortable just hanging out with you and recording.
I know. I want our listeners to know that normally we're sitting on very uncomfortable wooden chairs, but today Jackie and I, just wanted to, spice it up a little bit.
It is literally a couch day. So it's literally a couch day.
We are on the couch. When it's still cold outside, the winter's been so long. You just want to cozy up on the couch and just do the job from there.
Yeah, so relax. So we are in our best zone today. This is the most fun I've already had all day. So let's just get started.
It's always fun to be with you. So
what you're walking into in the consecrated house, just so you know today, just a little preamble, and then we'll just jump right into the gospel because it's really probably why you listen to this podcast anyway. Mm-hmm. But right now it is the people house, and we had, how many were we cooking for?
25.
Yesterday? 25 humans in the consecrated house. It has been a joy, and I keep seeing new people that walk through the hallway. Like we had 2 consecrated that came in. I haven't seen Gude for 3 or 4 years probably. She's a consecrated that works in Spain, and all of a sudden I'm in my kitchen, and so is she. So we've had all sorts of visitors in and out this week. So it's been fairly. I guess we've had a fairly good revolving door. Probably.
Do you want to tell them how special some of our visitors are?
Yes, I do. Should we say that now?
Yes.
Okay. So some of our special visitors are these adorable teenage girls who do their summer missionary year with us, and they're from South America, right? So we run a program called the ECYD Missionary Program. It's like an international exchange program for missionary life. So they just got here. Their English is awesome, but tell them what happened. I mean, do we want to do this now? Okay.
Yes.
Tell them what happened yesterday.
It was just
that you saw with one of them.
So adorable. So one of our Regnum Christi missionaries, who are, as you know, young women, who have graduated from high school that give 1 year of mission to their life, serving here with us. It was her birthday. So the little ECYD missionaries from South America wanted to do something special for her. So they decorated her door and made a big happy birthday note on her door, and then one of them just took it upon herself to knock on every single door, which I mean, if you guys have never been to our house, it's big. Okay, so lots of doors, lots of consecrated, and people in meetings and spiritual directions and different serious business, and she was just
varied in sundry details of our apostolic existence.
And she just took it upon herself to knock on every single door and let us know that we should sign the birthday door. So I just thought that was delightful. I really thank God for young people because they keep us.
It's so spontaneous.
Yes, they keep us joyful, and we can't be too serious, honestly, in life. And so I was really happy to be interrupted by the little joyful face of a girl from Costa Rica telling me that it is time to go sign the birthday door.
I love them. They are on fire. They're little fireballs. They are spending a week here and kind of traveling around the States. Just helping other little girls experience Jesus. So it's just been a joy to have them, but it is quite humorous to watch them transform our household for this week or 2 of the year.
Yes, yeah. Well, no, they're a joy. They're a joy. So, and you also had an adventure, right, recently?
Recently, I did have an adventure. Are you referring to Mount Yona?
Yes.
Okay. So our community has these star-studded stellar humans that are inside of it, right? So there's 7 in our local community with both of our 2 Regnum Christi missionaries who do their year with us. So this is recently. Jill's like, let's take a hike to the top of the mountain, right? And she's awesome. Like, we have a couple that are really skilled in this area, right? So we got halfway up the mountain, stopped, and on a tarp, like a picnic style, Jill spreads out this tarp and has hot beverages like tea and cocoa for us on our mountain trip. It was awesome, being as there was still snow on the mountain. So I gotta tell you, I felt like a little bit of a rock star just sitting at the. I mean, I would have never done that by myself ever. Like,
right.
Adventures in Community. Like, if you're like, do you want tea on the top of the mountain? I'd be like, I want tea. I want a mountain. I don't want to climb a mountain and drink tea on top of it until you do it, and then you realize your life is awesome. Yeah. So it was just like a little adventure in community as we were trekking up the mountain. But as we're on the trail, #missionary life adventure, I'm like, we're like turning a corner, and it's a little bit slick because it's muddy and whatever. Regnum Christi missionary, Mary, the missionary, begins sliding down the mountain, and all I can think about is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to write her parents and tell her, there goes our missionary down the mountain. So with cat-like reflexes, I just reach out and I grab her. And I saved her life.
Oh my gosh.
So yay for Mary, the missionary,
Yes.
who is still alive with us today. She is alive and telling the story. So if you know Mary and you want to reach out and say, tell us the story about when Jacquie saved your life, I'm sure she'll be happy to.
With cat-like
oblige.
reflexes.
Cat-like reflexes. Thanks for enjoying that.
Yes, that is awesome. Yeah.
So no, it's been missionary land here, honestly.
Yes, it's a beautiful time of year, and we're just grateful to be able to have a house that can welcome so many visitors and missionaries and a lot of life and joy. So it's been pretty awesome. So I hadn't heard the cat-like reflex story. So
well, it just little memories we put in our bucket.
Yeah,
like, oh, I probably won't forget that moment.
Yeah.
It's possible she may have survived without that. Quite possible. But it's just you never can be too careful on a mountain.
No.
So.
And I just want to say, not to go way back down memory lane, but I, when I was stationed in Switzerland at one of our schools, would go skiing with the girls. And one time I did start falling down a mountain. And I believe that you actually saved Mary. That's what I'm trying to say. So, yeah.
Well, for the sake of looking good on the podcast, let's just go ahead and keep that perception. And then, if you reach out to the community and if they have a different perspective on the event,
they can have a different perspective, but they don't have a podcast.
Yeah. That was funny. That was actually pretty funny. Yeah, we're going to do this on the couch every week.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Well, listen, we know that you love hearing about our lives, but we actually know that you really probably are tuning in for the gospel. So we are just going to crack open.
We're going to crack open the word.
Gospel.
Yes.
And let's just, I don't know, Laura, how about the rich young man?
Yes, I think
close to Valentine's Day, right? So 'tis the season. Let's just take a look at that character in the gospel, because it's pretty rich, and for the girls that are listening and the young women that are listening, probably has some heart wisdom that we can learn in our discernment journeys. So let's do it.
All right. So if you want to turn to, I know probably some of you are driving or doing housework or studying, but if you do happen to have 2 free hands and time, I also suggest that you grab a cozy blanket, sit down on a couch or your bed, crack open the Bible to Mark 10:17. So Mark 10:17, the rich young man. As Jesus was starting out on a journey, a man came running up to him, knelt down, and asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone. You know the commandments. Do not kill. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Do not defraud. Honor your father and your mother." The man said to him, "Teacher, I have observed all these things since I was a child." Looking at him, Jesus was moved with love and said to him, "You need to do one further thing. Go and sell what you own and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me." When he heard these words, the man's face fell, and he went away grieving, for he possessed great wealth. It's a hard one.
Oh, I gotta tell you, I really, really enjoyed that. I'm gonna share something I wasn't planning on sharing, so you could just keep with whatever.
Yeah.
But I was really caught by the very first line as Jesus was starting out on a journey, and the image that I kind of caught there was just watching Jesus with the simplicity of the movement of his body, just starting to walk in a direction, right? And as he's walking, the rich young man meets him there. But what caught me is that there's two people moving, right? Jesus is starting out on a journey, and then this young man runs to him. But it wasn't necessarily Jesus walking to the young man. Like, Jesus has an end game and a journey that he, as his own person and as the man and the God that he is, he's already in motion, and he's already moving. And it's the young man that actually notices something about the Jesus and the movement of Jesus that's causing him to come find him, right? So what's catching my attention just as I'm listening to it is, in a lot of ways, when we're talking about discernment, usually it makes sense. We're kind of centralizing in the desires of the heart, kind of noticing what's going on in the girl that's in front of us, or in my own heart in front of me. And it caught me as I was listening to this of Jesus has such a rich human heart that is already on a journey to bring his people toward God. And when the rich young man notices it, there's something that moves him to want to find Jesus. Yeah. So, that was just like a simplicity of watching the movement of Jesus and seeing his heart is already doing something. Like, there's two hearts involved in discernment. And both of those hearts probably at some deep level want to be one heart. But there are two separate hearts, and his heart has desires, and his heart beats in a way that actually the rich young man notices is different from his. And that actually can, at the end of the passage, it causes a little bit of conflict, right? But that the heart of Jesus is freestanding by himself. And there is a richness in the objective fact that he is completely and totally captivated by God with or without me. And his desire to want to bring the heart of this rich young man into God, I just really caught my attention, actually.
Yeah, I love that, Jackie. I never thought of that. That Jesus was already in motion, and then it says that the man came running up to him, and knelt down. I was always,
there's something.
Yeah, something has brought him to his knees. You know, there's something about Jesus that this rich young man who had, who knows, what he had, but materially had everything that he could have hoped for or wanted. And yet something about Jesus makes him run towards him. And I think, the word that we were talking about earlier before we started recording, fascination, there's something about Christ that fascinates us, that fascinates our hearts. And we can't get him. And anyone who's been in love before knows what it's like, that you just start thinking about the person all the time. And, if he drives a certain car, you swear that you see that car everywhere. And, you're like, you hear his favorite song on the radio, and you start to notice those things, what reminds you of him. And, that word fascination is what happens as well in our journey to the heart of Jesus, is that something about him just pulls us out of ourself to run after him and to fall at his feet. And there was something about Jesus that this called this man out of himself into a motion of leaving behind whatever he was comfortable in. It's just, I often wonder what happened to this young man. Yeah. Because he had so much good intention, and he went running out of his wealth, out of his comfort towards Jesus, and fell at his knees, and
I think it's what happens when your heart is so full of like stuff, right? And then I think if there's these magic moments where you notice something about the grandeur or the mystery of Jesus as something that captivates your attention, it's bigger than me. And when you watch the rich young man fall at the feet of Jesus, it's like, what do I need to do? But I love that. Like, what do I need? what is it that I'm missing? Tell me what I'm missing. But it takes seeing something that's greater than him and seeing the objective person of Jesus saying like, I literally need that. And the whole action of falling at his feet. But it's a resistance too, because he falls at his feet and Jesus tells him, you do need me more than anything. Like you actually, do you want to come follow me? Leave everything. And he can't quite do it. I've always wondered why that is. Like, why do you think he can't do it? It's a curiosity question of, he had to have the grace, right? Like theologically, if you get all nerdy and spiritual about this, like God never asked for something that doesn't have the grace involved with it. And even just that action of Jesus of looking at the rich young man with love, already the rich young man is in the gaze of love. Yeah, at some point he had to take his eyes off Jesus, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I can't pretend to understand that.
Yeah. Well, it did say that his, that his face fell when it says that his face fell after hearing what he was supposed to give up, like leaving everything behind and selling his riches. I just think he must have turned his eyes away from Jesus. Like he must have looked down and that, it's very powerful language because it says that he went away grieving. Oh,
I love that translation.
Yeah, I know that word. He went away grieving, just absolutely overcome with sorrow, because he was a man who possessed great wealth. And I often think of this passage with the phrase of St. John of the Cross that you can be chained to something, or you can be tied by a little thread, but you're still not free. So who knows if it was just a tiny little thread was all that needed to be undone for him to leave everything, but he was just still so attached to that, whatever that thing is, and I think also, as the curiosity question that you have of like, why couldn't he leave everything is just also at the same time, just a contemplation of our freedom, like how Jesus respects our freedom, because he could have tried to convince this rich young man, like, no, come with me. You're going to be way more happy. And I can give you, paradise, eternal happiness, but he respects that, he respects he does tell him, you will have treasures in heaven. But it's not enough for the rich young man. And, and my heart breaks for him because it also moves me so much. The verse that we read in verse 21, where it says, looking at him, Jesus was moved with love. Like he was moved with love, just like he was moved with pity. And he was moved at the death of Lazarus. In this passage, he's moved with love. Like, can you imagine what Jesus's face looked like being moved with love? Just absolutely and totally full of, desire for this person, this young man, to have relation with the Father, and to know that who he is as the Son of the Father. But he turned his back on that, so it just, I guess for those listening, it's like, God will always respect your freedom. Whatever you hold on to, he will not force that out of your hand. Because he wants to be freely loved. So, well, yeah.
So just as you were talking, I was kind of noticing in my image mind.
Yeah.
How funny the energy levels. That wasn't what I was thinking I was going to listen for today, but just when you look at the rich young man and the amount of just movement and energy of running, and you like I was just watching some Olympic videos on YouTube yesterday. For whatever reason, I was procrastinating doing something, but it was on the long jump, and when you just see the way that those people move, there is so much movement in that man's being moving toward God, right? So he's got a lot of desire toward God, and Jesus is already in motion, right? So those two things, like there's something dynamic happening there, right? And that dynamism on Jesus's part doesn't stop. Like he's looking at the young man with love. There's something active and alive and moving. And it's the rich young man that, what can I do? Even the action that Jesus says, he's inviting him, take one you are almost there. Like, I don't know. Like, really, that rich young man was not very far off.
No.
I am kind of wondering as we're talking about him if he's a little bit of a perfectionist, right? Like, I mean, and makes sense. I think everybody's got a little spiritual perfectionist just because it matters so much to us, right? But I'm imagining him. I've kept all the commandments, and he probably has, right? So he's probably some guy that cares a lot about God.
Yeah.
And he knows that there's got to be something else, And the last little thing is just jump in.
Yeah.
Like, let me just love you. Let me just love you where you had to. So for Jesus to look at him with love and just say, come. Yeah, you're right. You're lacking just one thing. Just come be with me. And everything else, like, let it all go. Like, maybe you don't have to do so much. You just let it go and come follow me, right? And I think, like, when you're looking at detachment in vocational stuff, this happens a lot, I think, at least on my phone calls and in my own journey. Like, I remember so much. As soon as you take your eyes off Christ and you start looking at what it costs, your face falls. It really does. And it's like, it's not just like the rich young man that got away like the big fish. It's like, even when you're discerning, and it's different moments. Like, I could name 3 moments right now, and I can tell you where I'm at on my little ranch before I got consecrated, where you just take your eyes from the excitement and the adventure of eyes locked with Jesus wherever we go. I'm following you, to giving up a husband, or giving up kids, or even simply giving up living that close to my family. The minute you do look at the sacrifice without the gaze of love, your face falls, but you're still dissatisfied. It's bad because you're made for a love that's all consuming, right? So for the rich young man, his particular call and vocation, in a special way here, like, sell all you have. That's not everybody needs to actually physically sell every possession that they have. That's not their state of life. But for this young man, it was, right? It's just like the minute you take your eyes off of the gaze of love, your face falls. But I am just wondering, like, the epilogue to that story, if he just stayed locked in that gaze, how many of the apostles experienced the same thing? And they were swept into the adventure of their whole existence and lives of just pour out your life with him and, like, enter that dynamic je ne sais quoi of just the life that's in the heart of Jesus. It's an invitation to live more and to live more deeply, right? So I guess it's the power of the gaze, actually, that catches me here, is any call that comes from God, that could be vocational, but it could be anything. Any call that comes from him, if you take your eyes off of the person, it doesn't make much sense, right? But to sacrifice for the sake of love, and if it's love calling, I mean, that, in my experience, has just been where life begins. It's when something that's bigger than me matters more than me. Oh, I love that. If you lived like that every day, you'd be a saint and a happy saint, actually.
I love that you just said saint and a happy saint, because while you were talking, I was thinking to myself, what happened to this man? This young, man who was so, ready to follow Jesus, and who had obeyed all of the commandments and prayed all the prayers and everything. I'm like, what happened to him? Did he get a second chance? And I just know the heart of Jesus.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a God of second chances. So I have no doubt. So I'm going to say something crazy, and probably it's not theologically correct, and all the consecrated that have theological,
Well, we'll hear about it. So you can bet.
But I'm like, I don't know. Maybe St. Stephen was the rich young man. And maybe he got to be, maybe he got a second chance and he was the first martyr that got to shed his blood for Christ, who knows, just the way that you said that the way that you were talking just now, Jacquie, like with his face just transfixed and looking at Jesus in love, and that Jesus was looking at him in love, it reminded me of the Acts of the Apostles where Stephen is being stoned, and it says that he was looking up to heaven with his face transfixed in love. And so that's what made me think that who knows if the rich young man, maybe he's not Saint Stephen, but maybe he was one of the martyrs of the first church, because, maybe he because God is the God of second chances and third and fourth and fifth. And maybe in the end he did get to sell all to the point of shedding his blood for love, So
I sure hope so, just for the sake of the fulfillment of whatever that desire was that led him to run so fast, right? it just looks to me like Jesus was ready to meet him there. Right?
Yeah.
So I like your...
We'll just, we'll
like
see.
your interpretation.
When we get to heaven, we'll see who the rich young man was. But
if anybody has theological feedback for Laura, you can find her at lmatthews@regnumchristi.net. Maybe we'll edit that out.
No, happy to get theological emails from anyone. So,
No.
but yeah, just happy to think that, really, the rich young man reminds me so much of St. Francis of Assisi, because he was this young man, so rich, so powerful, so, full of himself. And God came after him again and again and again. So I just have no doubt that he's going to do the same thing with this rich young man of Mark 10. So so he's a God of second chances if we just keep our eyes on him, and he's always running after us as much as we're running after him, right? So.
Well, and maybe a concrete takeaway, I'm just shifting it from our special blue couch, where, by the way, as we have already mentioned, this is where we will be podcasting from now on. But I'm just imagining you, whoever you are listening to this, in the chair next to us, right? And assuming that you're a young woman that is, pretty actively discerning just where God is leading next in your life, vocationally and maybe otherwise, right? Like what's the nugget or what's the takeaway? Your heart's going to know better than mine. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if it would be helpful to just notice where you might be with God in this type of a passage, right? Is it the snapshot of Christ himself alive and moving that catches your attention, where you're like, I just thirst for more of that? Is it the desire to, I will do whatever you want to do, like I will run as fast as you want me to run, but I'm wanting clarity? Yep. Could you be in a place where maybe it could be that you're already feeling some indications of clarity from God and having trouble with maybe what the price tag looks like, and feeling that crestfallen feeling and the need to actually keep my eyes on Jesus and to do some internal soul searching of, where is my treasure truly? Like, what is my heart actually looking for, and what is his heart looking for? You've got some options of where you could be in this passage, and maybe it's worth just taking a moment with Jesus in your car, or with Jesus in the folding chair that's in your kitchen, maybe because you're still moving in phases in your apartment life at this stage of the year, or whatever it is, right? Maybe you want to take a look with him and simply notice. You don't have to do anything with it, but maybe just see if any of those things feel like you. And if they do, maybe it's the beginning of a conversation with him of where is his treasure in the passage and where is yours? What's the richness that my heart is looking for? And in this February season of love, maybe treat yourself. Like, treat yourself to an extra half an hour with him sometime. Treat yourself to a praise and worship song with him while you're in the car. But it might be worth it to just keep your eyes open and just see what's something special for me that maybe God could be wanting for me. And if you need ideas, we also have this Lenten podcast challenge coming up. So if you are somebody who, I am sure Lent will be starting soon in this podcast. Mm-hmm. Yeah? So maybe you want to consider joining our Lenten podcast challenge. It's in the show notes is the link. But it's just a chance to fill up on hope and fill up a little more on stories from consecrated women of how they fell in love with God. And maybe that gives a little bit of a boost to your spiritual life as well.
All right. So do you want to end with our prayer?
I think we do.
All right.
We do. Lord Jesus,
I give you my hands to do your work. I give you my feet to follow your path. I give you my eyes to see as you see. I give you my tongue to speak your word. I give you my mind so that you can think in me. I give you my spirit so you can pray in me. Above all, I give you my heart, so in me you can love your Father and all people. I give you my whole self so you can grow in me. Till it is you, Christ, who live and work and pray in me. Amen.